Welcome everybody, we're in the home stretch here. Okay, so let's talk about just-in-time a little bit. We're only going to talk about it a little bit because you're going to do most of the reading on this one. This chapter doesn't have a lot of calculations in it, so that is what I'm going to focus on in the screencast, is the calculation. Any of the rest of it, any of the information you can read about just-in-time. And it's actually quite an interesting concept. The idea with just-in-time is that well, as it says, it's a business philosophy focused on reducing time and cost and eliminating poor quality within your manufacturing processes. Okay, so the idea here is that with just-in-time is that you don't have tons of inventory sitting on your shelves. The idea with just-in-time is that you have just enough inventory to sell. Often with just-in-time businesses, inventory isn't even made until an order comes in for that inventory. Alright, so the idea here is if you have something like Dell, right, a Dell computer. The computers are not just sitting on the shelves waiting for somebody to buy them in the factory. Instead, a computer isn't even made until somebody orders the computers. Alright, so that's the idea behind the just-in-time philosophy, is that products are made just in time for the sale. What you have with this is you have a lot less obsolescence, in the sense of you don't have items sitting on your shelves going bad or becoming obsolete because it's a technology item. Additionally, you don't have the costs of maintaining such inventory. You don't have security and factory space and all that kind of good stuff. You don't have people working and making products unless they are basically already sold. Alright, so with the just-in-time philosophy, you have to have a very close relationship with the people that supply you the items that you might need in order to make your product. So for example, let's just say back to computers, if you're making computers but you don't make your own screens in-house and you order them from somewhere else, well, you'd imagine that other person, or that other company that you're dealing with that sells you the screens, also has to be aware of how quickly you need the screens processed. They can't tell you, well, it'll be 3 days until we can get you screens. Instead, they need to be also in the same position of that they produce the screens to you immediately, because they know that you can't make the computers and fulfill your order without those screens. So a very important relationship to have is with those suppliers if you are a just-in-time business, because you can't have delays if you don't have any stock sitting on the floor waiting to be sold. Okay, as it says, it views inventory as wasteful and unnecessary. All right, let me just get past this. One of the main tenets of just-in-time is to reduce the lead time, or the time that elapses between when a product is begun until the time when a product finishes. So one of the ways that we do that is we identify value-added lead time versus non-value-added lead time. Now, value-added lead time is the time that from the time you start a product to the time you finish it, all of the time that you're actually working on that product. All right, versus non-value-added lead time. Non-value-added lead time is the time between, again, when a product is started to when it's ended. That is the time the product might sit and not be worked on. Now you might think, well, how does that make any sense? Well, what if you've got 3 different processes in your business? In process A, they put this part, parts 1 through 3 together, and in process 2, you put parts 4 to 5 together, and in process 3, you put parts 7 through 10 together. Okay, so I know that that probably wasn't very clear, but the idea here is that if you have several processes within your factory, you may have time that the product is sitting at process 1 waiting to be transported to process 2. That time in between processes that's just sitting waiting maybe for a forklift to come over and pick up the product and take it over to the next process is all non-value-added time, because any of the time that it's being transported between those 2 processes or 3 processes is all non-value-added time. It's time that the product is just sitting, waiting, not doing anything. Alright, with just-in-time, you seek to reduce as much non-value-added lead time as possible. Okay, so here you go. A visual of that. So say you start off with raw materials. Well, the time that you take raw materials out of inventory, have the guy in the forklift bring it over to the place where it is drilled, whatever it is that we're making here, I don't really know. um, all of that time is wasted here. It's all non-value added time. Now, when the product is actually being drilled, that's great. That's value added time. Now that maybe the process, now they're all sitting here and they're done, and then they've got to get transported to the next process. All of that is wasted time that the product is sitting there. All right, and where the product is being packed up, that's value-added time, and end of production, you get money from the customer. So the idea here is the only value-added time are those that are marked in green here when the product is actually being worked on. All the rest of it are the times that we're seeking to reduce. All right, now one of the main areas that time is wasted is in a batch. One of the biggest areas of time that is wasted is when products are in a batch or in a large batch. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this without my visual example that I use in my classroom, so I'm going to do my very best here doing it through the screencast. But let's pretend you've got, let's see how many here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You've got 10 items in a batch. All right. What happens here with this is that with these 10 items, at one time you could only be working on one item at a time. Like right here, you see this little spigot is pouring items into this whatever mold that we're making here. I'm guessing we're pouring iron or something into a mold. Now, when you're pouring the mold into this item here, item number 8, what's happening here with these that are already done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of these are just sitting here. Nothing's happening to these. All right, so the only value added time to this individual unit is the time that iron? Iron is being poured into the mold. All the rest of the time, the other products are just waiting. So if we poured it into, if this takes, let's say it takes a minute for each one. It takes a minute to pour the iron into there, a minute to pour the iron into there, a minute to pour the iron to there, to there, to there. In total, this whole batch is going to but you're going to spend 10 minutes of time pouring iron into each of these items in order to finish this whole batch. Well, the only value-added lead time for this one is the 1 minute that iron is pouring into that particular mold. The other 9 minutes, it's all sitting around waiting for the rest of the batch to get filled in. So the only value-added lead time is the 1 minute where iron is being poured into that particular mold. The other 9 minutes is time that it has to sit around and wait and do nothing. That's a really important concept to get. So before I get to numbers, which I'm going to do in the next slide, I think I'm going to continue on another screencast.